Hello again, Conce. I will show the build for this at the end of the video, but as you've probably seen by the title, it is going to be a Kinsect only run of Fatalis. It is going to last somewhere around 20 minutes, so I'm not going to talk for the entire thing. But just a couple of justifications first. We are going to use the Roaming Ballista and the Dragonator. Without those two things, they do, like, given the way I use them, I didn't use them with the Tenderetius in final phase. So they do somewhere in the region in total of like a third of Fatalis' health altogether. Which means that the run would take roughly 50% longer if we didn't use them, and we did the run in about 20 minutes. So basically, it would take quite close to the limit of 30 minutes. I reckon we'd have done it in time, but even if not, this was a fairly early attempt. This is on like the second or third try, and so definitely with a little bit of practice and a little bit better aim, we could get there. So yeah, despite calling it Kinsect only, we are going to use those just to basically save some time. The run is no different. It's essentially just instead of 20 minutes of me spamming Kinsect, we do 30 minutes of that instead. So no meaningful difference. Now you can see immediately I've grabbed dragon pods, and you can tell by the number of dragon pods, 9 rather than 7, that I have got myself Slinger Secret. It is not essential. It is just kind of nice to have enough Slinger ammo to sort of last you the entire hunt. Yeah, regarding the build, as I said, I will show it at the end of the video, but I've also done videos on Kinsect builds in the past. You should definitely take a look at one of those if you haven't already. The notable things here are that I'm using Veristag Force, which is the power, I think 19 or 20 Kinsect, the slow one. I found that because I was fairly close to Fatalis a lot of the time, and because I already found it difficult to aim for the head regardless, that the slow Kinsect and the fast Kinsect didn't make much of a difference in terms of like how often I would hit. However, I did find that the increased damage was, I think, somewhere in the region of like 10%, which is quite nice. So I'm using Veristag Force with Dragon Element in it, obviously. Now, if you aren't aware, Fatalis' head is a better dragon element, and a buffed Kinsect, which, by the way, as you can see from these symbols next to my Kinsect buffs, we got the little red with the up arrow. That is because we fed it with dragon pods, or just monster slinger armor in general. So that tends to do somewhere in the region of like 300% elemental damage. Yeah, element is a pretty big component of that. And so, yeah, that's the reason that you'll notice so much difference between the head and the chest. Even if you did tenderize the chest, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. I'm trying to think if there's any other considerations I need to mention. I guess I'll talk a little bit more about the set. Again, even though we say it's Kinsect only, we do use Insect Glaive Clutch Claw attacks, just to get the Slinger ammo. The other thing is the Insect Glaive itself, rather. You can see that we are using the, you can't necessarily tell, but it is a rare 6 Insect Glaive. As I said, I've linked a video in the end card, and I've showed the build at the end to indicate what all these things are. But yeah, we're using a rare 6 Insect Glaive with, I believe, either Element or Sever Boost, or whichever one's appropriate for the Kinsect. The reason we do that is because it lets us run the old world, the base world health augments. And as I said, this is all covered in the video in more detail. But yeah, those health augments give you more health back, essentially, than the new world ones do. The explanation is a little bit complicated as to why, but basically they do, and so we run those with recovery up for 3 and a fully defensive set. We use a fully defensive set because, okay, I'm just going to go over all the Kinsect facts here, I guess. I've got nothing better to talk about. We use a full elemental, we use a full defensive set, rather, because all your offensive skills don't actually affect the Kinsect. You can run Attack Up, you can run Slugger, Part Breaker, you can run Power Prolonger. None of these things affect the Kinsect itself. And so you're free to run whatever skills you like. And so when you're doing a Kinsect only build like this, you just run whatever defensive skills you want. I'm running 4-piece Fatalis and 1-piece, I think, Gold Rathian, because it had like points of Divine Blessing, which I needed. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You'll see I keep Fatalis in rage mode as much as I can. That is because the 10% damage boost does apply to Kinsect damage, and I guess it lets me tenderize the head too, which is like 1 extra point of damage per hit. The head is already a really high hit zone, and so tenderizing it doesn't actually make much of a difference to the hit zone itself, but it does. I mean, it's kind of just a happy side effect as to when we're prepping rage mode. Yeah, so you can't see me right now, but I'm like sort of running my fingers against my chin as if I'm in thought. Trying to think if there's anything else I've forgotten to mention. We have the Palico out just for the extra DPS. Palico has Meowlotov out. Yeah, regarding playstyle, I mean, the video is going to last for 20 minutes, and you're probably not going to make it through very far into there before getting bored, which I don't blame you. But yeah, the playstyle is basically explained via the footage. However, I tend to try and get the head whenever I can, because it is 80 damage as opposed to 50. But at the same time, if Fatalis is doing a move that's kind of tedious, I won't be afraid to just spam it on the chest. It's not a big deal. And openings like this, it might be better to go for the chest because you can see how many I'm missing. That's the kind of thing I need to improve on though. With better aim, I'd be able to do a better job of landing that more consistently. So now you can see, for example, I'm going for the chest. So yeah, try to hit the head when you can, but don't prioritize it so highly that you end up doing much less DPS because of all the misses, if you see what I mean. Whenever there's an opening where you can't hit the head consistently, especially if it lasts long and there's no point trying to go for the head like a second later, you might as well just hit the chest a few times, because every two chest hits is worth more than a single head hit. And so in that time, if you could have hit the head chest a couple of times, it'll be worth going for. Aside from that, because we are running a fully defensive skill build, obviously if you don't have Fatalis and you want to do this for God knows what... Oh, I guess I should mention that. I've advertised the Kinsect only build as a fairly safe and consistent way to do hunts, albeit slowly in the past. So like with 18 Amiel, for example, this was a really easy way to like guarantee the win at the cost of taking a little bit longer. That is not the case with Fatalis. And you saw we did a 24 there, which means we need to buff our Kinsect. That is not the case with Fatalis. With Fatalis, the issue is like it's so difficult to beat it in the time limit using this method. You can see that even using all of the ballistas and all of the dragonators and stuff, it still took us nearly 20 minutes to do this hunt. And you can imagine, especially if you have worse aim or you aren't willing to use like the ballistas, you can imagine that taking much closer to the 30-minute limit. Oh, speaking of, if anybody's interested in seeing me do like a purely Kinsect only run, where I am actually pushing the 30-minute time limit, I assume nobody's really interested in this, which is why I allowed myself to use the ballista and stuff. But if there are any Kinsect purists out there who are desperate to see me do this with only the Kinsect, do let me know. I'll maybe try it. But yeah, I'm trying to yeah. So I wouldn't bother with using this as like an actual strat for Fatalis if you're struggling with the fight. There are other better cheese strats that you should be using, like ZSD spam or just taking a look at some of the matchup guides that I put out previously on the channel. This is a lot harder to do because you have to be like so decent with the DPS. Like you have to be fairly consistently hitting Fatalis' head. You have to be pretty good at it. I know some people struggle to do my Alatrion version with Kinsect only. If you're one of those people who struggle to do it with Alatrion, then you're definitely not going to be able to do it with Fatalis at this point, I don't think. And you can see we're doing 88 to the head when it was tenderized, and we're doing 87 without it. So as I mentioned, the tenderized doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, I've been talking for 7 minutes now. I'm just going to show the build at the end. There's not really much for me to talk about in terms of the build. I have Clutch Claw boost, obviously. And aside from Clutch Claw boost, to make it, to give us the free tenderizers on like the chest when we do end up focusing the chest, if we end up focusing the chest, I can't even remember. Yeah, aside from that, there's nothing really spectacular. Just make sure you have 2 points of heavy artillery if you want to use the roaming ballista. But otherwise, there's nothing really that particular to talk about. We're running things like Defense Up, we're running things like Divine Blessing, Halico Rally, just whatever defensive and tertiary skills we can get that actually sort of interact with the Kinsect. I'll just link a video to my Kinsect, I'll link my Kinsect build video later. It's not been updated for Fatalis, maybe we'll update it at some point. But yeah, in its current state, that should basically cover you. Yeah, so I think I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of the video. I guess, I don't know, use it as background noise for whatever it is you're up to. I can't imagine this is particularly interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'll stick around, and if anything interesting happens, I'll notify. I'll like try and commentate on it. But I don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah, I hope you have a lovely day. Take it easy. Bye bye.